Oh, this is going to be annoying. Well, this really sucks. So it has pretty much been raining all night. I woke up off and on. Occasionally it tailed off and I'm like, okay, maybe it's gonna break. It's been pouring. And the unfortunate thing is I did the comfort thing, which is I got a weather report on the inReach. I tell myself not to do that because I've never had that be worth a damn. I've had better luck with like the Weather Channel and other things, depending where I am. But it basically said that this is the light rain and that it's going to get a lot worse in the afternoon. I was fine once I got in here, got into the sleeping bag, you know, my short sleeve layer and my fleece dried out eventually with body heat. But when I pack this tent away, this inner is going to be basically completely wet. It'll still go into dry-ish storage inside a stuff sack in my bag, but there's nothing I can do here, unfortunately. There is no upside. I need to make miles towards in at the long trail because otherwise I could wait this out. I could sit here all day and then I would need to make an 18-mile day tomorrow, and that does not seem very likely, especially considering I know there are blowdowns ahead. Days like these are why I always edit my video day of. I was just editing yesterday, you know, walking through the rain for 15 miles. Because if you look at it after the fact, it's a lot easier to kind of like boost yourself up. Oh yeah, it was fine. You know, it was a bit of a struggle, but oh, I was tough. Versus when I'm doing it in the moment, it's like, oh, there is nothing good about today. Every aspect of today is going to suck. At best, things are going to improve late tomorrow. When I went to charge my phone this morning off my battery, I got the dreaded liquid in the charge port warning. And that's a problem. It does that so it doesn't short out, but that means, you know, when your phone is down to, oh, I don't know, 15%, all of a sudden you can't charge it and you're worried about like running out of power. Trick I found that worked for me on the AT is I actually carry some Kleenex like packed away in my ditty bag, my 10 Essentials bag. They're useful for a lot of little things like that, and if you basically put it over the USB-C or the lightning cable and you plug it in a couple of times, that seems to absorb a good amount of the moisture. The first couple of times I did that, it came out wet, did it till it was dry, blew in the port for a couple of minutes, and then I was able to charge. The other thing though is it can be in the cable. I always carry two cables because I have a two-part port wall plug. Yeah, for what it's worth. There isn't a great solution for that. I know people that have started carrying MagSafe chargers just because they're afraid of the port thing. You can also get on Etsy little like 3D printed plugs to put in the port. I haven't tried those. That might work. Could also trap moisture in there and you could end up with more like corrosion. Or you could do the intelligent thing, like go to this hiker I ran into yesterday who's like, you know, mutual Facebook friends from other trails we've both been on. Never ran into each other before, but she said she's like a cat. She just doesn't like rain, so she took a zero day before yesterday. Yesterday she was in a shelter by noon when the rain started heavier, and then she was going to take another zero today. I am envious of her intelligence at the moment. Generally, I don't see much of a point into changing into dry layers in the middle of rain because all you're going to do is get wet, especially today when I have to go through vegetation, presumably. However, I was getting some weird abrasions on my feet at the end of yesterday, and I usually associate that with dirty socks after a couple of days. So I'm going to have to sacrifice layers. I'm actually going to switch into dry socks and dry underwear and then just try and wear the skirt, the rain kilt I have, and no shorts, at least initially, and see how far I can get like that. Okay, rain tailed off at least a bit for the moment, so I made a run for it, broke everything down, and onwards, onwards and through. There's a song by Flogging Molly I really like, appropriately named Worst Day Since Yesterday. And you know, I went to play it this morning, and it is truly the worst day because somehow that song is now not downloaded offline on my phone, so I can't even play that. Fortunately, I did have my fallback by Captain Tractor called Shitty Day. It really is a shame music copyright is what it is, because otherwise I'd be able to play stuff like that over the map in the morning. Water's flowing finally. A lot of water came down last night. So at least the first couple of miles this morning are supposed to be pretty good trail till the second shelter or so. And at that point, that's when the vegetation sets in. So I can at least potentially use my umbrella for part of the day. It didn't really look like there was any particular time of day where I could miss the worst of the rain. It looks like noon onwards it's a little heavier, but it was coming down pretty good this morning. A lot of days like this tend to be type 2 fun. Not really fun at the time, but you know, fun in retrospect. Becomes a good story. Occasionally you get up to like 2.5 levels, which was not fun at the time. Really isn't fun looking back at, even if you're telling stories about it. See like the lightning on the Mississippi, or that post-COVID Noro incident, or a couple of more I could mention. People laugh at me when I say, you know, distressingly nice when I just get a mild day. But those all kind of run together. I met somebody yesterday in the middle of that kind of butt kicker up and down where I was having to watch my footing, who recognized me right off, had been watching my videos for quite a while. And the things he rattled off were all the endure and overcome sort of things. You know, breaking ribs, tearing calves, stuff like that. Realistically, all I need to do today is get myself within range of end of the long trail for tomorrow night. I've just got my whole kind of endurance struggle combined with I don't trust how quick I can move over the terrain, and warnings that the section close in at the long trail is on the slower end. You know, if I had like a 5-mile easy downhill at the end of it, right before the end, then I'd be able to be like, oh yeah, no problem. As it is, I think I camped 18 miles from it, and I think at least 12 or 13 of that is potentially gonna be slow going again. Descriptions of how bad the blowdowns were varies person to person. Some people just kind of shrugged and went, yeah, they were there. Other people said they were horrible. The entire canopy came down. They were having to just shove through soaking wet branches. So we'll see. When it comes to rain gear, all rain jackets are kind of so-so. They all have their drawbacks. The rain kilt works really well for me unless it gets, you know, really cold like in Colorado. The biggest thing, at least for me, that I've been happy with has actually been these. They're the Showa Termes gloves. Remember I said I don't trust any gear reviews online that don't come from somebody named Skirka? I got them because up in, I think it was Washington on the PCT, I had rain and snow for days. And I was generally okay, other than my bare hands were too cold to have outside and use my trekking poles. It was too wet to use my fleece style gloves without getting those wetter than I wanted. So once I found these, they're like dish gloves, but they actually seem breathable. I laugh because breathability when it comes to rain gear is just kind of like a sick joke, but they work pretty well for me. I find they have better grip and are more wearable than something like dish gloves, which I think Jen tried on the Mississippi because she didn't want to get these. I have since bought a pair for her. The problem is they became a known thing, and all of a sudden, you know, scummy people were trying to profit for it. So you can get a box of 10 of them from the manufacturer for $100, or you can find them on Amazon and eBay for like $30, where somebody bought a 10-pack and then marked them up I was able to find this last time when I got Jen a pair finally, a hunting and fishing outfitter that was selling them individually. So then they came to like 14 bucks each, I think. They do have a couple of different models of them. They have some that have insulation built into them that we've had people use at snow camp rather than expensive, you know, pairs of gloves from REI. These are just thin waterproof layer, nothing on the inside, and I get them oversized so I can have gloves underneath them if need be. I've never actually had to do that though. They work as a vapor barrier, so they have always kept me warm enough. The biggest drawback to my rain setup is I can actually shove this in the side pocket, kind of pointing up in front of my pad, so I can get it out without stopping and taking my pack off. I have yet to find a good way where I can kind of like sheath it without stopping and taking my pack off. And Jen laughs at me because I'm weird. I don't like having to take off the pack, or I will go to great lengths to not have to get into my pack during the day. It was something that happened to me during the PCT. I just got exhausted by the day in, day out packing, unpacking stuff. I was really looking for some sort of way to put the trekking poles away. I had this Spuds kit I think I got off Garage Going Gear that technically works, but it has big clunky magnets, so it just wasn't worth it. And I know Osprey has some sort of system on their bags. I have had plenty of Osprey bags over the years. I've never actually used that. From when I've seen it demonstrated, they kind of stick out awkwardly, so yes, your hands are free, but if you need your hands to scramble or do other things, it kind of seems like that might have its drawbacks. At least for me, the psychological benefit of these umbrellas when I have to hike in the rain is so damn huge, to the point where I carry them even when I know they're not going to work due to heavy vegetation now. There's just something about not having rain like running over your shoulders and everything, and also it helps me keep my phone dry. This Hyperlight accessory pouch, as they call it, is waterproof. Does seem to have sealed zippers and everything. Works pretty well, but still, if I need to get the phone in and out, water gets in. The original ones I was using when I did the PCT and I think part of the ECT were nylon or something similar, so they weren't actually waterproof. And so I ended up partway through the day at one point, phone was low on battery, couldn't charge it because the port had gotten wet. They are waterproof, so I'm not really worried about it failing, fortunately. If we were still in the days of non-waterproof cell phones, I would have a much more stressful existence out here. But still, when they get really wet, the front screen doesn't work quite as well. It won't register like taps sometimes. This is one of the things I like about the newer iPhones, because the two things I need to do are get into far out and to check the map, and then take a picture. And the 16 Pro Max has a camera button with a lot of extra features that I've never used, but it will launch the camera and record if I see something like a moose, because I have quite often seen them in the rain. And then they have something called an action button, which they replaced the useless mute switch with a little while back. I basically never take my phone off silent. So I have that set to launch whichever map app I'm using at the time, either Far Out or Gaia. So I can pull it out, squeeze that, glance at the phone to trigger Face ID, and boom, it's up, even if the screen isn't responding due to too much moisture. All of this is kind of East Coast problems for me. In the more arid areas out west, I generally have not had as big of an issue. Not a fan of the shelters, but I won't say no to a privy. Beats digging a cat hole in the rain, you know? So I was told by somebody I met yesterday that this was a really cool shelter. Guessing it's also on the busier side. Huh. Well, shit, what do you know? Chances are there was somebody and they just took off early, especially if they're southbound. It's possible to get off trail at Brandon Gap. My shelter-loving friends would make fun of me for days like today where I'm grumbling about packing away a wet tent, and yet, you know, I was a couple of miles away from this if I wanted to come here. It's only 8:46. I walked up here past the privy just because I thought maybe there'd be somebody to say hello to. Oh well, like I said, there is easy downhill to Brandon Gap where folks could potentially be going into a dry room in town, which if I didn't have the restrictions I had on me, I might be sorely tempted by that. I guess almost everybody I talked to yesterday was scrambling off trail for this storm. So onwards, 5.2 miles until David Logan's shelter, which is where, rumor has it, things start to get messy. My prediction, because the universe seems to love me these days, is the heavy rain will kick in at that point. Only one fall so far, and it was a patch of bare dirt without any leaves or anything. Just slid out from under me. I'm trying to be really careful on all the roots, and the bridges especially have been really treacherous. That is appropriate. Okay, so this is the David Logan shelter cutoff, which I'm not even going to stop by. If you believe everybody I was talking to yesterday, this is the buckle up buttercup bit. I keep telling myself if the weather gets bad enough, I can always pull over. It's just not knowing how fast or slow the trail's going to go tomorrow. I'm a little worried about just saying, oh yeah, 9 miles from Main Junction. That'll be fine. I can do that tomorrow after the weather's stopped. So just try and do what I can until it becomes too miserable, and then find some place to pull over and huddle soggily in my wet tent. And Tater's got her wish. Her favorite little guys. I forget which state it was, but when Jen and I were together on the AT, we got hit directly by a hurricane. Holed up, rode it out on trail, and the next day everything was flooded and those guys were just everywhere. Uh-oh. I think I recognize that name from something somebody said yesterday. Oh, this is going to be annoying. 1:30. No thunder yet, but I am getting tempted to pull over since it is getting rather soggy. Just ran into two guys coming the other way. First I've seen all day. When I asked them about the blowdowns, because there was a couple back there that were a little messy, they shrugged and said, oh, maybe one or two, but no big deal. So I'm torn because any mileage today makes it so I get into the inn earlier tomorrow. But like I said, I also have to go a lot slower in the rain. And I really don't want to break my umbrella if I can avoid it. I need it for the next storm. Really torn because I want to get closer, but I should be able to do it pretty quick tomorrow. And this is kind of hard to pass up. Get out of the rain because this is supposed to continue this hard for hours and hours and into the night, supposedly. Yeah, I feel pretty filthy. Oh well. Part of me is happy to have made my miles plus a little extra, and the other part of me is like, oh well, maybe I could have pushed through, but it's not like I was headed towards a shelter or anything dry. I was just going to set up camp eventually, and I probably wasn't going to get any drier today.